Animation Nation. The world is our story.
Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Lim, the Festival Director of Animation Nation, organized by the Singapore Film Society. It's my absolute delight to present to you today this very special in-conversation between the director of Disney and Pixar's Hoppers, Daniel Chong, and Singapore award-winning animator Kaylee Tan. Without further ado, I'll hand it over now to Kaylee to get started, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Michael. Daniel, I'm so excited to talk to you today. First of all, congratulations on Hoppers. What's been the most exciting part of seeing it come to the big screens after such a long journey?
Yeah, it was 6 year journey. Oh man, not recommended, but we got through it. Definitely the most. I mean, honestly, to add on to what you're saying, it is the benefit of seeing it now with audiences. The movie's been done for actually quite a while. We finished it like kind of in November, and we've already been able to screen it for a lot of audiences, like press and influencers, and all that. And getting to experience a movie that you made in a theater with an audience has been one of the most satisfying experiences because you really get to see the movie through their eyes. You get to see what they react to. You get to see them kind of, the way I describe it is go on the roller coaster. It's like everyone's laughing at the same time, as it's rising, and everyone's like screaming at the right time and crying at the right time, and getting to like see people respond to the movie real time is just, it's something I never got to experience on my TV show, and it's just something that is such a rare occurrence now, especially with not as many movies being made. It is like a very special and thing that I'm very honored that I get to do. So that has been definitely the most exciting part.
Yeah, for sure. It's like the best feeling, like seeing people laugh at like the correct time.
Absolutely. It's a very connecting thing, and you kind of forget it, especially since everyone's watching stuff at home now. You forget like, oh, laughing with other people is a thing, that is it kind of amplifies that experience, and yeah, you can't beat it.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat, especially connecting with me here in Singapore. I love to start a little with your background and your journey. So, I've heard that you have a connection with Singapore. You have family here, and your parents immigrated from Singapore. I was wondering, as someone in Asia looking at your journey from afar, how did your cultural upbringing shape the stories you gravitate towards today?
Yeah, in kind of different ways. I've kind of, some part of it is I'm also not very aware of it until I make something, and then I look back and I go, oh, I guess that's why I did that. And Bears kind of was a little bit like that. After I started kind of making it, I started to understand like, oh, I can see why I made this. It's because I felt like a minority where I grew up, and I really just wanted to fit in, and I wanted to find my place and be accepted. And that's kind of what my TV show was. My first TV show was about We Bare Bears, and so that was kind of that journey. And I think it, like, the Bears kind of started to represent me trying to fit in, and that experience. For this movie, I think there's also a part of me that loves to see representation that's not talked about, and to me that is like sometimes the best representation, when it just feels like they're just part of the landscape, and it doesn't matter if that character had to be Asian or not. It doesn't make a difference to the story. And I think when I see that, like, I almost think of, if you guys know the movie Up, when I think of Russell in that movie, it's the same thing. It's like a character that just happened to be Asian, but was doing a story that wasn't dependent on him being Asian. And I kind of think our main character Mabel is the same way. There definitely are texturings in the story that definitely identify her as Asian, but it's not crucial to the story. And I think that is part of my experience, is wanting to tell stories that, the presence of an Asian person, for example, isn't something that has to be like, screamed out loud on the screen. It just kind of fits into the fabric of the story in a very smooth way. So I think that would probably be my answer to how my Asianness, at least at this moment, has influenced some of the work I've done.
but it's always nice to see representation in media and like especially in like a feature film. Like it's so exciting to see that it's not about her uh, ethnicity, but also about her as a character. And I guess like other than her ethnicity, like was there anything that influenced how you approached her as a character?
Yeah, I mean, she to me represents like where I feel like the younger generation is right now, feeling like, they're not sure if they have a future. There's a lot of existential dread in all of us, but I would say particularly in the younger generation that is trying to think about their future and not knowing if there is one. And I do think that part of it was to represent that generation, their fight, and also that what they're dealing with. And hopefully it's a movie that kind of gives a little bit of hope for how we could possibly get through that, or they could get through that. We all could get through that. But I also think from a character standpoint, I was trying to write a really crazy character. We were making like a movie that's like an action thriller, and I wanted Mabel, the main character, to be unpredictable. I wanted you to not know what she was going to do next. And I think those are really fun characters when you put them in an action movie, because those are the characters that jump into fire and you're just like, whoa, And I think the work ahead, though, was finding a way to ground that character so you would understand her and emotionally relate to her and also just love her. And you would have reason for why she's jumping into fire and she's not just like a crazy character. So I think that was kind of the journey in kind of crafting her as a character.
Yeah, she's like such a fun, quirky character. Like I'm excited to see what she does.
Thank you.
And I also remember seeing the first look at D23 when the teaser dropped. And as a character modeler, I love the character designs, especially how cute Mabel is as a beaver. It's so appealing. So I was wondering, how did you find like the visual language and personality for this world?
Oof. Well, character design was something that, or the design of the characters, I think came actually, I wouldn't say easy, but it was not the hardest lift in terms of what I was worried about. I think I have a pretty strong sense of my aesthetic and what I like, what I find appealing, what I find cute. And a lot of that was crafted, obviously, in my TV show. I think I having made so many episodes and designs with my team so many things, I know what I like. So that part actually came easy. I mean, not to say that it wasn't work, and it took a lot of really talented designers and individuals that contributed to the modeling and the designing and the craftsmanship of those characters. But I think that to me was pretty straightforward. I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted them to be characters that I would want to grab and hug and feel them on the screen. I wanted to feel the texture, and I wanted to feel their chunkiness and the fat flaps around their neck. So that part was on the less stressful side. What became stressful was finding an environment to put those characters in. And I think what's challenging is nature is really difficult to put on screen, especially in CG. Nature is messy and it's chaotic. And if you just go outside and take a picture of nature, it's a mess and you don't know where to look. So how do you depict nature in a way that is aesthetically pleasing to look at in CG when everything has to be modeled and put together? But then B, how do you stylize it in a way that fits with these cartoony characters? Because I think if you just put these cartoony characters in a photorealistic setting, I don't think it will look good. So I think there were all these challenges that were ahead of our team, and they found some really interesting solutions and technology they created to kind of stylize a little bit, to add flavor so that it fit the world. But that was the heavy lift, for sure.
Yeah, and you guys did a phenomenal job on like the backgrounds and everything.
Thank you. I'll let them know. They'll appreciate that.
Yes. Perfect. And I guess like you've also, as you mentioned, you've been a show creator. You've worked across several studios and different roles throughout your career. How did you approach each opportunity in a way that helped you grow from one role to the next?
Well, Bears was my first project. Part of it was I had the benefit of naivete and not knowing what I was getting myself into. And I also think it was a very low budget show. Bears was not like the budget was not high. So I think I got to kind of do my own thing with very little pushback. And I just got to create a lot of things. We made like 140 episodes and a TV movie. We made all these shorts for online. We did that all in 6 years, and I learned a lot just doing that. It's almost like getting reps in working out. It's like I just got the training I needed to make things, and you learn how to make decisions very quickly. That's one of the tough things about when you start having to make your own thing or having to lead a team. You just have to be very decisive, and you have to know your taste very quickly. So I can make decisions and lead people very, very with a strong like kind of sense of what I want. And I will say when I came to Pixar to direct, I kind of had already then in me a sense of what I like and what I know my taste is. So I was able to come in with a strong kind of stamp on what I wanted to make. So I think that was the benefit of having made a TV show before. And the funny thing is, the way it worked out is it took 6 years to make Bears and all those things I just mentioned. It took 6 years to make one movie at Pixar. So, that's just the way it works. It's a lot of time for one movie, but you get to really fine tune that one thing and make it as good as it can be. So it better be good.
It will be good. It is good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and as you talked about making decisions, I guess like when you were developing Hoppers, how did you know it was the story you wanted to tell next? Because I completed a short film that's kind of like whimsical and it's funny, but now that I'm choosing my next project, I feel like it's quite vulnerable and there's a lot of soul searching that goes into it. Like, was there a moment during development that you knew this was the one, this was the idea?
Yeah. We did, I think, we do all these internal screenings at the studio. And it's a way to pressure test the movie just internally with the people that work here and obviously with a lot of the directors that work here. So you're getting feedback from, you know, very accomplished people, that have done amazing films. And I remember it was like our third screening and we had come up with, and I think it's in the trailer, that scene where they're texting in the back of the car and trying to communicate with the mayor. And I remember when we, after that screening, we went into the room to get our notes. And Andrew Stanton, who is the director of WALL-E and Finding Nemo, the first thing he said was, well, that sequence is in the movie. And it was very satisfying and validating to hear that, because this is a person who's been through so many movies and has made so many good movies. And he kind of just knew off the top of his head, like, that is a good scene and it will be in the movie. And he was right. It stayed in the movie. And that was like a long time ago that we came up with that idea. And I think when we started to hear things like that, it started to solidify my sense of, okay, I think we got a movie. And I think there are things here that are starting to feel stable. And when you're making a big movie, there's nothing more helpful than having some stable sequences that are not changing, because those are the ones that help anchor your movie. Because you're like, okay, maybe the rest of it is a pile of fire that's like burning up, but at least there's some moments here that we know are definitely in the movie, and we can anchor the movie with those things, and then the rest will just keep changing forever until we get it right. So I would say that was the big moment that I think changed for me. And I do relate to what you're saying. It's really tough when you put something so personal in the movie and try to write through that and put that on screen. It's vulnerable. And I commend that bravery, because I don't think I could ever do that. There are a lot of people at Pixar that do that. They tell these very deep emotional stories about their life through these movies. Like Pete Sohn did that with Elemental, Dan Scanlon did that with Onward, and I I just have to give my hats off to them because I could never be that vulnerable in front of people. So good luck to you. It's hard to do that, but I've seen it happen, and it's amazing when you can connect with people emotionally with something that you're going through. That's a huge accomplishment. So, yeah.
I think it's always cool to see how everyone has like different processes to how they develop their story. And it's cool hearing that like from the start that you knew certain scenes would stay in the movie. I guess were there other like fun scenes that stayed from the start?
A lot, yeah. I mean, there's a scene where Mabel learns about nature as a little kid. That always was in the movie. It certainly moved around in the movie. Like we were like, oh, maybe it goes here. No, maybe it goes here. Maybe it goes here. So that changed, but the core of that scene always stayed the same. I think like Mabel meeting King George and King George being this kind leader and how it's all introduced, that always stayed the same. There was always a council. There was always big action scenes, and a lot of those, some parts maybe changed, but I think the core of those scenes stayed very similar. And I do think when you look back, and I've looked at a lot of older Pixar movies and seen like their first screenings, almost every movie in their first screening has maybe one or two or maybe three sequences that never changed. And I think that is, so it's a good thing. I think we followed that same cue. We probably had about three sequences that stayed more or less the same. But, not to say a lot of stuff changes too, though.
Yeah, for sure. 6 years is a long time.
It is. It's existential, a TV show, you don't have time to overthink because you just got to produce. And so you're just like making stuff. And you have no time to second guess yourself. You make a decision, and that's in the show. But I think for making a movie over 6 years, it's existential because you have so much time, and so you end up questioning everything. You'll question the very foundation of your movie because you just have the time to do it. And I think it's really hard to kind of keep perspective. And I think a lot of that comes, and you kind of end up relying a lot on your team to ground you and to tell you, no, this part's good, don't change that. Or the head of the studio, like Pete Docter, will come in like, that's not the note you need to address or thing you need to worry about. You need to worry about this. And that's where kind of veteran leadership, people who've been through it before, can really give you a lot of help.
It's like so important to have like a North Star that keeps you grounded through like the 6 years. Was there a specific North Star for Hoppers?
Well, wow, that's so weird. No one's ever asked me that.
They always talk about it in like story class.
No, it's true. You do need a North Star. I mean, okay, this is not a great one, but let me at least start here, and then maybe as I talk through it, something better will come up. One of my biggest North Stars was I wanted this to be a very funny movie, and I was always led by entertainment. It's not a story thing necessarily, but it is a kind of way of working and vetting ideas that kind of textured the whole production. And so what that means is comedy, number one. It's got to be entertaining. It's got to be fun to watch. And everything we do has to be led by that. So that means if a scene wasn't working or wasn't getting the laugh we needed, it's wrong. Try again. If it goes into CG and someone's modeling the set, or we're doing layout and we're putting into CG, if the comedy's gone, it's not right. Do it again. And so everybody on the team was led by this version of a North Star, which was that comedy first, and comedy was the most important thing to hit. The entertainment value, maybe is a better way to put it. And so everybody kind of held hands and was like, that is the most important thing that will guide all of our decision making. And I think it helped, and obviously it's more nuanced than that. There's scenes that obviously are emotional. There's scenes that are vulnerable. There are scenes that have to be terrifying. But I would say the tone of the movie is funny. So that part helped really guide us to be consistent and also to know where to prioritize. Um, I think Mabel, as a main character, was a North Star. I think I always knew who she was and what kind of character she was. I always knew she was a person that could live in our world right now who cares about animals and cares about her future. I always knew she was going to be a passionate fighter and somebody who you would not want to mess with, and somebody that you just you that fights for injustice and fights for the little guy. And I don't think I ever wavered in that. We had to find the nuance of that and also find how to make that a likable character. But I kind of knew like this is who the main character is.
I think it really shows true, especially like with her fighting spirit that starts, the whole story and carries that throughout. And it's such a fun movie. Even just watching from the first trailer, I was like, this is going to be so fun to watch.
Thank you, thank you.
Especially the parts you mentioned about in the car. Like, I laughed so loud. Yeah, dude, you said you didn't have an answer for North Star, but that was perfect.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and we did talk about that. The film took 6 years to make. Like, yeah, how do you stay motivated throughout this and engaged with the work and the process when you've been working on it for this long?
Um, I feel like I'm gonna unpack. I'm unpacking that right now. How did I survive it? I will say one aspect that shifted in my leadership over the course of Bears versus this movie is my sort of my feeling of responsibility towards my crew. And I don't know that I thought about that as much when I was doing my TV show. Not that I didn't care about them, but I never thought of it in terms of like this is their lives too, that they're having to go through this with me. And I never thought about how do I think about their well-being or how do I think about their experience making this movie. And I think that when I had a little perspective at the end of the series where I started having lunch with a lot of the crew, people I had been working with for years, I never really got to know. And I started to understand like these are all people that, have given their lives to this show and have worked so hard, for this show and for me and for and I kind of felt like I have to be a little bit more aware of that. So when this movie started, I think I made a very conscious decision to be hyper aware of my crew, to care for them, to be very responsible for their well-being and for their happiness and for their investment in the movie. And I think that helped push me a lot to not kind of just throw up my hands and go like, I don't know what to do, or I want to give up. I just couldn't because there were too many people that were counting on me to not mess up and to make this movie work. And I think that might be the best way to describe how I powered through a lot of stuff was I felt an immense sense of responsibility for the crew. And I feel like there's probably unhealthy habits that I created being a workaholic, and I naturally am, just I don't know how to control the obsessive nature of what it takes to make something. I'll probably have to unpack that more after this movie's over. But for now, I gave everything I could to this movie and to making sure the crew is happy. And I think that's just how the movie got done.
Yeah, and it totally shows. It's like the teamwork of like so many people coming together under your like direction to like make this awesome movie. So I've got time for one last question.
Okay.
Yeah, I always love ending by asking for something our audience can carry forward. So for artists and filmmakers, especially those who are new in the industry, what's something you know now that you wish you knew when you were starting out?
I remember when I started making my TV show, we were writing so many episodes and we had to come up with so many ideas. And I didn't realize how it was going to suck every inch of who I was into that TV show. And I guess what I mean by that is that any movie I liked, any skill set I had, be it basketball, piano, all the things that my parents forced me to do, any of the music I loved, any of the experiences I had of places I've traveled, all ended up in the TV show. They all kind of played a role in the things that I was writing and the things that was coming out of me, you know. And I think that's something I just didn't realize how much like every inch of your life can be used to make to the overall will come out as you start creating your own thing. And I think, and that was definitely true of this movie too. You know, there were so many things that I think just came out very naturally because, you know, I'm writing from my experience. Every movie is so personal because it requires it to be personal, you know? And so I think that the takeaway here for young artists or anyone starting off is this: just know that everything about your life will contribute to your creative life and whatever you end up making. So A, be aware of those things, but B, also maybe use that as a way to inspire you to be more adventurous, try different things, read different things, watch movies that you would normally not watch, expand yourself as much as possible. And I think all those things will, in the end, play a giant role in forming the kind of things you can make and you will make. I think that's something I kind of wish I was a little more aware of when I was younger, but I'm hyper aware of it now. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel. I love that. Thank you so much for talking. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
Hi, Daniel. Do you have time for a rapid fire question?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, any go-to animation film book you would recommend?
Book?
Book, yeah.
I mean, gosh, I want to say, I'm so bad at rapid fire. You know, I think Illusion of Life is still pretty amazing. I mean, it's a little cliche, but that book is incredible. And maybe Disney animation isn't your thing, but there are just fundamentals in that are like unbelievable. So I would say that. But I would also say if you want to get into writing, I think the book by Alexander McKendrick. He was a director, but also a teacher. I already forgot what the name of the book was, but that's a great book on just filmmaking and writing. So that to me would be the number one book to read.
Okay, favorite movie soundtrack?
Oh, oh my God. Maybe, I don't know. Fantastic Mr. Fox, I think, is incredible. The Up soundtrack, I love. But for this movie, I listen to a lot of Mission Impossible.
Are you a cat or dog person?
Cat. I have 5.
Most listened to music album?
Well, I think it's SZA. She got me through this movie. I remember I was listening to her music when it started, and then her SOS dropped like midway through the production. It saved my life. It was just like a lifeline. So probably SZA.
Okay, last two. Most watched film?
Maybe Beetlejuice.
Okay, and favorite food in Singapore?
Chicken rice or wonton noodle. I had chili crab when I went over there, but I don't know. I honestly, man, chicken rice is still like the thing, or wonton noodle soup. Those are still my jam. So, sorry, is that a little too cliche for you guys?
No, it's awesome. Thank you, Kaylee and Daniel, for such a fun and insightful conversation.
Thank you.
That was good.
It's definitely a wonderful year, 2026, as it's also Pixar's 40th anniversary as a studio. Congratulations to everyone at Pixar over the years who have contributed to its magic. I'm so looking forward to Hoppers and to Infinity and beyond. And thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to our Animation Nation channel and Instagram for the latest news.
Yeah.